And now we have Primate Ademisokan, who is a clergyman, and he joins us to discuss on the current Ibadan Stampede that took place last month. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much.
All right, so quickly, what in your opinion is the rationale behind gathering large crowds for empowerment programs in Nigeria, and are there alternative methods that could achieve the same goals without putting people's lives at risk?
Yes, there are alternatives, and the Bible is unequivocally clear about it, because the scripture itself does not want the right hand, the left hand to know what the right hand is doing when it comes to giving to the needy. So you can always spell it out. If you want to give to like 1,000 people within a state, select like 10 towns, 100 per town, and it will go around. People will be happy, there won't be stampede. But if, by adventure, a kind of funfair that must bring people together, what has to be done there? There, we have to think of risk management. You see, political risk and hazard must be considered. And there must be what is called crowd management. We should consider the crowd size. Then that will influence the venue. The venue must be large enough to take not only that kind of crowd, but it must be bigger than the size of the crowd itself. Then we must consider all sports, because the hoodlums, the cutties, the smokers, the drunkards may gather themselves, come as a gang. So you have to consider all sports. So the entry, the exit. And when we are talking of the entry, you see, access control is of essence. There must be access control. So we can think of a barricade, then emergency response must be there. So those are the things that are necessary. Then open communication system to advise the people, so that the emergency response plan, evacuation plan must be included. First aid must be included. Barrier and fencing must be included. Surveillance camera too is of importance. So instead of, if you don't want to go through all this kind of thing, then we can do it in bits instead of gathering people together to score a cheap popularity. Then you should teach our crowd what is could be described as crowd etiquette. These are what we want. These are what we don't want. If you dress like this, you won't enter. If you are more than so, you won't enter. If you are coming in gang, we won't allow you. You see, there must be crowd etiquette, which must be spelled out to the people. So anything that is free must attract people. And when people are attracted, there could be stampede.
Fact that we've had, previous cases of stampede in the country, and of course, like I said earlier, with the most recent, which is the Ibadan Stampede. What would you say are the lessons learned, and how can the government and other stakeholders work together to prevent similar incidents from reoccurring again in the future?
Yes, all this one I've just spelled out is for a lesson for the government. People must now continue to seek approval. When you want to gather more than 1,000 people, there must be a formal approval. That's very important. And for the organizers too, they will have learned their lesson by what has happened to people who are trying to be philanthropic, and they've actually celebrated their Christmas and New Year where they don't expect to spend it. That is enough lesson. But other lesson is to the people who like a wolf. You see, Nigerians like this too cheap. They want cheap things. People traveling 200, 400 kilometers, spending 6,000 to come and collect 2,000 worth of gifts. All those things are too common in our. Anytime you put it out for free, people always gather. You see, they swamp the place like locusts. They want to hit it, and they want to hit everything. So, and some of the time they fight over nothing. You see, so one of the way to prevent that is put some stipends there to be able to check excesses of people. Those are part of the lesson one can quickly dish out to people now. But there must be reorientation. the etiquette of liking cheap thing, a wolf thing, or free at all times should be checked in this part of the world.
Much, Primates. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and that was Primate Tuton Ademisokan, a clergy man. And now we'll move on to Titilayo Charles, the senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Coming on this program.
All right, just as I said earlier, this is not the first time a stampede is happening in Nigeria. Has there been a clear procedure in place for organizing such empowerment program that has to do with a large crowd in Nigeria?
When you look at what has happened, these are all charitable ventures that are individually driven. They are not driven by government, and they are not organized by government. And it's very, very difficult to control individual act of charity. But you see, the problem we are having is that because of the situation in the country, everybody seems to take it for a ride that, well, it's my right to take this because I need help. And I think what the government need to do now at this stage is to make rules and regulation, specifically if it is going to be by way of executive orders, that we help to regulate the activities of those who want to do open charity. Otherwise, a lot of charity can be done without coming openly to the stadium or to open space. You can distribute all these things house to house in your vehicle, and it will be well received. During political campaign, I'm aware, many things, items are distributed. We don't have stampede during those political campaigns. We are aware politicians do distribute. They don't have stampede. I think it is the way it is being organized now that has caused all this problem. And I think people should move away from trying to generate sensational coverage of such an event to the real act of charity. And that is what the pastor have said. When Jesus Christ do good, he said, tell no one. And if you look at when Jesus Christ fed thousands with few loaves of fish and loaves in the Bible, he instructed the apostles to first of all ask all of them to sit down before they started distributing. And after they ate, they were able to pick the leftover. That is a style of crowd control that you can garner from the Bible itself. Even when people crowded Jesus Christ and they wanted to take one or two things or to eat, the apostles were afraid that if we send away these people, as hungry they are, some of them might faint on the road. So let's find something for them. And Christ said, let everybody be seated first. And when they were seated, the apostles started distributing. So there is no a situation where somebody will rush at what is being distributed will not occur. So it's a matter of wisdom for those who are organizing this type of thing to know how best they can work on the crowd control. And the best way is to distribute house to house. It's no longer more than to gather people together in a particular place. Because when you look at the police, the ability even to control such a crowd is impaired. The highest they can do is to throw tear gas in the process of people running away. People will be injured again. So, and when you look at the number of police that will be in that event compared to the crowd, they might outnumber the police and then overwhelm them. So, while gathering people you cannot control, I think the best executive order the people can, the governor can make is to ensure that when you want to do such a charitable project, you go from neighborhood to distribute. And when you do it, you don't have this type of stampede that we have seen have taken place in several parts of the country.
Nigeria that govern the act of benevolence, such as distribution of food or other food items to aids and, to large crowds as such. Is there any law that, covers that?
Yeah, the only law we have has to do with Public Order Act, which The higher court have declared as invalid. That is, you need a police permit before you gather people. That is quite unconstitutional, as the right of freedom of association is guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And what we need police to do most of the time, when people reach out to them for such a gathering, is to assist. The duty of the police to protect gathering is enforced by law in this country, but we cannot, by any legislation, outlaw people gathering. That would be an infringement on their right of freedom of association. No legislator can stop people from coming together in such a gathering. But we can issue advisory, and police can also help in crowd control in different ways, and by advising the organizer, and also by providing a lot of logistics that can, in time, help to checkmate a situation where there will be stampede. Obviously, you know, when you gather the size of that crowd, they'll be infiltrated by all manner of people. Criminals will be there, and then hoodlums will be there. And this can prove very, very difficult for the police to control, looking at the situation we find ourselves in the country.
All right, we thank you so much for your time and for the added knowledge we had this evening. Thank you so much for being a part of the news.
It's a pleasure.